If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Susan LoPresti Wellness, Mind, Body, and Soul, the podcast where we explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to a woman's life, her health, and all aspects of navigating the midlife landscape. I'm your host, Susan LoPresti, and today's guest is Dr. Nonkulie. Dr. Dladla studied African American studies and mystical traditions at Oberlin College before pursuing medicine. She graduated from Cornell College. She then went on to pursue a master's fellowship in research and epidemiology from Cornell's graduate school. She has been a practicing internal medical specialist for 20 years, but developed a strong interest and an affinity for ancient, holistic, and integrative medicine many years ago after suffering health problems that were not being addressed by conventional medicine. Dr. Dladla went on to study functional medicine, which looks at systems and their interactions to create more dynamic and comprehensive treatment plans to restore health. She is trained in bioregulatory medicine, which uses nutrition, lifestyle, chemotherapy remedies, light remedy, IV nutrient therapy, peptides, and etc. to support the body's ability to come back into balance. Bioregulatory medicine purports that the body has built-in mechanisms to heal and regenerate, but needs additional support to do so. Dr. Dladla has a practice that's called Gramercy Park Integrative, and that's at Gramercy Park in Lexington Avenue here in New York City. And without further ado, Dr. Dladla, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am so honored to have you on, and I've been so excited about this conversation. So I noticed on your website that you was struggling with some health issues that weren't being addressed through conventional medicine, and that's where you turn to functional medicine. And so can you just shed a light on what was going on with your health at that time?
Absolutely. So I basically had a fatigue syndrome, which many people are going through in this day and age. And I had gone to my conventional doctor, my internist, and other doctors as well, doing blood tests, a variety of evaluations, and everything was coming back as negative. Everything is fine. However, as time passed, as my life got more complicated, more busy, I didn't feel fine. And I wasn't able to kind of sustain what I needed to just to keep up with all the different demands of my life. And I found that basically due to just the conventional medicine training, because there was not anything specific in the blood work, because the tests were not really a little bit more in depth in looking at things from a more systemic and kind of integrated way, there were no answers. So I was often told, okay, you're fine. You just, go home, get some more rest, and just leave it at that. So, eventually that just became something that was not sustainable, and I had to seek out different solutions. So that's how I embarked on my journey towards integrative medicine. I started seeing a naturopathic doctor, as well as working with Chinese medicine, practitioners, functional medicine. And it was really through, the listening and the particular methodology, I was able to have a whole kind of lifestyle change and bring myself gradually back. But it really was a very frustrating experience. And I know many people go through where they're going to their doctor looking for answers. And if you don't have all the different particular factors that fall into a diagnosis, you're often dismissed.
Yeah.
And this just has to do with the training that we go through as internists.
Can you touch on functional medicine and explain what that is and how it compares to conventional medicine?
Absolutely. So functional medicine basically will look at how all of the different organ systems, how they interact and how they relate. And there's a belief. So for example, somebody may be suffering from headaches, but from the functional medicine perspective or the integrative medicine perspective, you're going to look at all, like, your digestive system. You're going to look at various systems to see what could be the root cause of the headache. It may not necessarily solely lie in the brain, but once you start breaking things down and looking at things from a more comprehensive point of view, you may be able to do things, for example, to repair the gut that can also lead to the decrease in headaches and migraines, for example.
Yeah.
So it's kind of looking at things in a very, like, a systemic and organized fashion, where you're going through all the systems and trying to piece together what is the underlying cause for that particular dysfunction. I would also say that functional medicine, or what I also like to, speak of in terms of bioregulatory medicine, which is very similar, basically, is saying that the body has its own innate ability to restore, to repair itself. And our role is to do things to support the body in being able to kind of fulfill that natural ability. And because, we're in a situation now where we are so, bombarded with toxins and so many different things coming at us, the body does need additional support in many cases to be able to sustain itself and really have a thriving, physical and mental function, not just, getting by and surviving.
Right.
So I see really that as the main difference, where I think in terms of conventional medicine, a lot of things are driven by having a particular diagnosis, and that diagnosis will lead to, all right, there's specific medications that I can give that person to address that diagnosis. So the whole emphasis now is on, you have that disease and we're going to give you medication to help control that disease. But there is little emphasis, although hopefully that's changing, there is little emphasis on preventing that becoming into an actual disease. There's little emphasis on what we can do to empower ourselves to kind of lead healthy lives without waiting until we develop diabetes or hypertension or all the various chronic medical conditions that people, are facing. While I see that, everything has its role. So I use both types of medicine when appropriate and when needed. But the real goal is to prevent a chronic illness, but also to really enhance and allow the body to do the magic that it naturally does.
Absolutely. And it's really unfortunate that conventional medicine, they do not look to functional medicine at all. And the other unfortunate thing about functional medicine is that it's not covered most of the time. I know for me it wasn't, by your insurance company, so they don't look at it, and it becomes an out-of-pocket expense. But in my own personal experience, when I was going through perimenopause and I was going to conventional doctors who were telling me that it was perfectly normal for a woman my age to be experiencing these symptoms. When I went to see a functional medicine doctor in 2011, it was a whole different ball game at that point. And she looked at my gut first and immediately said, I suspect that you have a gluten sensitivity. And
Mm,
where the other doctors would never mention anything like that. And it was under her care that I actually began improving. And I did have migraine headaches all the time, and it
mm,
was connected to my gut. So it's
wow.
interesting that you started the conversation like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true because one point that you make is really unfortunate is that everything that diagnosed, it's all tied to the insurance company and reimbursements, right? So if you
Yes.
don't have those particular diagnosis codes, you're not going to get reimbursed, and then doctor's not going to get paid. And there's a pressure, right? So in and out, in and out. What can I diagnose you with? Yeah, you got to get out because I have the next patient coming
Yes.
in. If not, I'm going to be scrutinized. It might be let go. There's all of these things in the system that really creates a lot of pressure on patients and physicians to be able to care for people properly. And also our training, right? So we weren't trained about the microbiome.
No.
I wasn't when I went to medical school like 20 years ago. So I had to go out and seek additional training to really educate myself and, look at things from a different perspective and
Yeah.
basically just increase my toolbox.
Yes.
So,
Yes. So bioidentical hormones, I was put on them as well because I definitely was in perimenopause. Can you explain bioidentical hormones? Because I know that there's this stigma about, especially I think in the 70s and the 80s,
mm,
where they were saying that having hormone replacement therapy was causing cancer. So can you
mm.
explain that?
Sure. So, so there was, unfortunately, many years ago, that particular study that came out that associated like hormone replacement therapy with variety of things, cancer, cardiovascular disease, a variety of issues over. And that actually really kind of halted or had a really negative impact in terms of women being treated for perimenopause and menopause. So things kind of just stopped, and doctors were fearful to really address and treat women, also men with andropause, for these symptoms. So that over many years there were flaws found in that particular study, and that there has been a shift in a different direction. But it is still a barrier, and women are still expected to kind of suffer through these variety of symptoms and just have a lower quality of life, and being told, well, that's just what it is. so so hormone replacement therapy is is effective, right? But it is synthetic. It is being derived from horse urine,
Mhm.
whereas the bioidentical hormones are plant derived, and they more naturally mimic the body's own hormone production. So it is a safe way to approach your hormones, and there's a variety of ways that it can be delivered so people can really have a significant improvement in their life. For example, in my clinic, we do pellets, we do creams, we do injections, really whatever is customized or personalized for that particular patient or client, what they think is going to be best suited for their life. But we're able to deliver those bioidentical hormones, and people really have a significant improvement in their quality of life, but
Yeah.
also it impacts their longevity. There's a variety of things that it does when you replace those hormones.
It was a lifesaver for me. And
Really?
I used a cream and I would put it on the inside of my arm or
Yeah.
on my abdomen. And it changed my world literally because, you're suffering. You're literally suffering when you're in perimenopause and menopause. It could be very difficult. So I'm a big believer in functional
Yeah.
medicine.
It's really amazing because I actually had the same experience. I got my blood tested many years ago, and I found out I was very low in testosterone. And once I started using I began with the testosterone creams. And once I began to use those creams, I had a complete shift in my energy. It was like night and day. And my schedule was very grueling because I was, I have a practice, I had 2 kids, younger kids, and I had a commute. But that bioidentical hormone really, really changed my whole energy level and also my ability to kind of follow through on the things I had to do.
Yes.
So it really is something that, it should be really like the standard of care, and it should be offered to everyone who is going through those types of symptoms and is at that point in perimenopause or menopause.
Right. And that you can't even get that in a regular pharmacy. It has to be through a compounding pharmacy.
Yes, exactly. So one of the things I've actually just before I even had my practice at Gramercy Park Integrative, working in another medical facility, I made a relationship with a really great compounding pharmacy. And so, you want to make sure that they have the highest kind of regulations and the highest standards. And once you find that, that's like a really key point and critical piece of like your care. So that's really, really important. But like you said, you cannot go to a regular pharmacy
No.
and get those compounded medicines.
Right. I want you to also touch a little bit on Chinese medicine and medicinal herbs, if you
Yeah.
will.
So part of my own experience is, even though I have not been trained formally like in acupuncture, I was doing a lot of energy medicine on myself, toward myself, went to various practitioners. And one thing that I love about Chinese medicine is one aspect is just looking at your energy body, looking at the meridians, looking at your chi energy, and looking at your health from that perspective. And basically using not only herbal medicine, but also acupressure, acupuncture to unblock those energy lines and to restore your natural energy. So when I was going through, various fatigue issues, I would get various diagnostic treatments, and one would be to check my pulses. And those pulses, which I do also with my patients now, we would check the pulses to see where there is a deficiency or an imbalance in the gut health, in the kidney health. But that kidney health and gut health kind of correlate to energetic centers, which is different from traditional like Western medicine.
Right.
But I found that the herbal treatments, like a lot of my patients, for example, they do have fatigue syndromes, or they have menopausal symptoms. Using a concoction of Chinese formulas really, really helps in terms of changing the energy flow in their body in conjunction with other things that they have to do.
Right.
I also work with a really great lab called Way Labs, and they have amazing protocols for actually more advanced diseases, more advanced liver disease, kidney disease, COPD, and very, very intricate protocols that can be like year long that gradually work to cleanse and then restore kind of this like cellular metabolism and restore and create that balance in the system. So,
Interesting.
that's cool.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is NAD, N-A-D.
Yes.
But what does
Yes.
that stand for, NAD?
Yes. Nicotinic adenoma. All right, I'm gonna mispronounce it.
Oh, okay.
Nicotinic adenosine. I'm gonna mispronounce it. So,
Okay. What does it do?
okay. So the most important thing. So NAD is one of the centerpieces for longevity, and it actually is active in every single cellular process that the body has.
Okay.
So with NAD, it is very significant in helping cellular repair. It works very closely with the mitochondria. Now, the mitochondria is, called like the powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
So NAD is very, very, important in helping the mitochondria to work and function more efficiently. NAD also helps to decrease inflammation in the body. So inflammaging, right? They call it, right? Because inflammation is one of the main drivers to aging, but also all chronic disease. So, as we get older, NAD will naturally decrease in our bodies. So it becomes very important if you're thinking about things, from the perspective of not just like your lifespan, but like your health span, to investigate, to see what, your levels are of NAD, and then to, replace those levels. A lot of times, we have different processes going on in the body all the time. So the body, like I was saying, has this ability to heal and repair itself, but it needs that additional help. So one thing that NAD helps with is it helps with particular proteins, longevity proteins, that get depleted as we get older. So when you have the NAD coming back into the system, it can really help those longevity proteins to do their job and to work more effectively. So that really is something that's really key. I think that, again, when you go for your annual physical, these are not things that are kind of discussed or brought up, and they're kind of disregarded. But it really is one of the key areas that we need to address to be able to, have positive longevity.
Yes.
Because we are going to live longer, but we don't want to be living longer in nursing homes or under the care of our family in, Alzheimer's and a variety of different diseases.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And speaking of NAD, it also significantly helps with taking away some of those negative plaque proteins that are associated with Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So it has many, many differentiations. So one of the things that that we do, because you can go to any clinic, a functional medicine clinic, right, and get an NAD drip. You can get a shot. But one thing that we like to do is I'm working with this particular lab where we're looking at what level is your NAD, because sometimes you don't know exactly how to even dose yourself properly if you don't even know kind of where you stand.
Yeah.
So this particular lab, the scientist, he's done a lot of work with NAD, and he has a particular test that looks and measures the intracellular level of NAD, which is great. Now you know where you stand, you know how deficient you are, you got to know what your risk is, and now you can replete it with the appropriate amount. And we happen to use like a powder for that.
What
but
is
we
that?
also do
You use a what?
so we use a powder. So the name
powder.
of this name of this practitioner, this product is called Ginvinity, which is really great. So we use the powder, and then we kind of see how is the body responding, and then if necessary, we'll retest in a few months. We also, do IM, do other type injections as well, but I like to start, with the powder and then try to get you on a steady state. And then we kind of see what your body needs as we move through some of our protocols for anti-aging.
Wow. So that seems like something that everyone should have checked, right? Because we all want to live longer, and we want to live longer and be healthy. And that seems like a no-brainer way of doing it.
Exactly.
So
Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sorry.
how does it affect our aging and health? Like, does it slow down the aging process, or it does?
So one of the things that you can also like supplement is you can supplement precursors to NAD, which is NMN. That's one of the precursors. So people are taking some of those supplements to kind of help with the production of NAD. So the way that it helps is it slows down, right, the inflammation process. It helps with something called autophagy, where the body has its own way of kind of regulating itself and taking out kind of bad cells.
Yeah.
It helps with that process as well. It also doing things like working on your sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm. That also supports NAD. So all of these things basically increase cellular efficiency, cellular regeneration, and that is what allows you to be healthier and to live longer.
So what are some of
So
the supplements that you need to take to improve NAD?
So one of the things so we use that particular powder by Genvinity that has a combination of a lot of B vitamins and a variety of different, it's a mixed product, but also NMN, like I was saying, is a precursor that you can use that also helps the production of NAD. But you can also make lifestyle changes, right? So one thing is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting also helps to kind of ramp up the NAD cycle. So you can have a schedule for yourself where you have like an 8-hour window of eating, say 4 times a week. The other days you can just eat normally. And that really helps for the body to have this kind of resilience, being able to go in and out of these types of metabolic processes. So that helps to support the NAD function. The other thing is you can give direct mitochondrial support. So there are supplements or nutrients that we give that help boost the mitochondria. In addition, like I was mentioning, the circadian rhythm, right? Yeah. So going to bed earlier, maybe like around 10 o'clock, which might be hard for people to do, myself included all the time. I'm going to bed before 10 so the body can reset and reorganize and rest. And that also helps to rejuvenate some of the mitochondria. And then making sure when you're in the morning, you're able to kind of have some early contact with the sun to help reset the brain and the body. All of those things help with NAD production. The other issue obviously is stress, right? So stress is a huge factor because it really dysregulates our whole nervous system. Cortisol is pumping, it depletes our energy reserves. So having some kind of practice that we do on a consistent basis to help regulate our nervous system is also very important, not just when we're having maybe anxiety or panic attacks, but some daily structure like breath work, like, meditation or whatever practice that you feel you resonate with, but something consistent.
Right. That's great advice. Right. That's really great advice. So tell us about your practice. It's called Gramercy Park, right?
Yeah. So my practice is called Gramercy Park Integrative. We've been there for about a year and a half. We're in Gramercy Park in Lexington and 22nd Street. So the practice does multiple things. So one, I do bioidentical hormones. I treat men and women using whatever particular hormone we need to kind of replete and kind of get them back to health, restore their health. I also work with, weight management. So we use GLPs and other types of supplements and things that we need to get people's weight into balance. And I find that in conjunction with the bioidentical hormones, it works really well. People start feeling better, the inflammation decreases, and it kind of speaks to all those longevity issues we were speaking about before. So I do that. And I also do have like anti-aging or longevity protocols where we are focused heavily on repleting, measuring the NAD, replenishing the NAD. There's a whole panel of kind of blood work that we do or testing that is not like a routine type of testing, which will give us a sense of where you fall in terms of variety of aging proteins and kind of what is your biological age versus your regular age. So these things, these are the things that we look at. And I also use, if necessary, not only nutraceuticals, a variety of these Chinese herbs that we use, supplements. I use a very great product, not only Way Labs, but something called Health Concerns, which is a really great product. But I also do peptides. So we would do a lot of replenishing with peptides as well, based on whatever your condition or your situation is. I also have a big program in cardio prevention.
Oh,
So I look at really where you are in terms of your cardiac health. So we're much more aggressive. We do more, imaging and testing to see what is going on with your coronary arteries, with your carotid arteries. And then from there, I give the integrative approach and program using nutraceuticals, diet, lifestyle, but also if I need to use medication, I will, to prevent someone from developing heart attack and stroke,
yeah.
or if they've already experienced that, to prevent them having a secondary event. So our philosophy is that the standard of care with cardiovascular health is not enough. So we kind of aggressively go after it because we're finding younger and younger people being impacted by it.
Yeah.
So that is really a big thing that we do. Also, as you mentioned, gut health. That's kind of like the foundation where we start, because a lot of our issues are arising from the gut.
Mm-hmm.
And we are treating that with a variety of protocols that we use. And I would say the max, the big max thing that we do in terms of aging is we focus on cellular regeneration. So we have particular protocols specifically targeting cellular regeneration. And I can leave it at that. And people can come to me and ask if they want more information about that.
Okay. I want to go back to bioidentical hormones. At what age would you recommend that a woman get tested or start using bioidentical? Would it be someone who's in her mid-30s, or do you wait until they're in their 40s going through perimenopause? What do you recommend?
So I think it depends on the individual person. I
Uh-huh.
think, like, I have some women who are having symptoms in their late 30s,
Okay.
and we can start replenishing their testosterone if necessary. Once they start getting like in their early 40s, then we can start doing testing and kind of more aggressively treat. However, you can give estrogen in particular doses even before a person enters full menopause, but that really has to be customized to that particular person.
Yeah.
So whenever people start to feel like, they are going in the wrong direction, even late 30s, we start to test and we can treat. And as things develop into actual menopause, then our treatment plan will even expands. But it is good to try to address things early, like in
Yeah.
perimenopause, as early as possible, so you can prevent yourself from going down this very, very depressing and difficult road of just
Yeah.
like having no energy, bad mood, and everything else that goes along with that.
Poor sleep, hot flashes, night sweats, anxiety, brain fog. Should I go on?
Yes. And I'm
You
finding a lot of
notice
people,
I've been there, right?
yeah, and the brain fog, really hormones help tremendously with that. That's a big thing. And a lot of people will just say, I feel different. I just feel more confused. I can't focus. And it starts hitting in the 40s. And
Yeah.
so myself being in my 50s, yes, it makes a huge difference to get treated early. Yeah.
Now, for someone who's past menopause, so like me, I'm 65.
Wow.
Should I be testing my hormones at this age to see if I'm deficient in any particular hormone?
You can, there are people who would disagree and say after a certain age, there's no point in treating, but you can. I do have some patients who are on the bioidentical hormones for a long time, and it's keeping them stable and they do not want to make changes. So it is good to check the hormones and see what is appropriate for your age. But everything has to be kind of customized to kind of where you are, but also how you're feeling and what your symptoms are.
Right.
So
Right. And are you seeing new patients at your practice? Like you're welcoming new patients at this?
Absolutely. We're a new practice, been there for a year and a half. So we are welcoming, and we would love to treat and serve new patients. Yes.
Thank you. Any final thoughts that you want to leave my listeners with? Because my audience pretty much is a midlife woman
Yeah.
who's in her mid 40s and older. So, what advice would you give to a woman at that age?
I would say really to reclaim your power and your strength, and find things, activities that are self-caring, that really, really emphasize your own energetic wellness and protection. So along with diet, exercise, getting proper sleep, also finding things to support and nurture your own energy. Because the society makes women feel at a certain age that they are not as useful, they're not as important. So
Right.
it's very important that we are able to fill our own cup by doing things that kind of stimulate and improve our vital energy. So definitely I would say that. And then also to seek out integrative health practitioners who can give you a variety of modalities to help sustain your health and make you feel better, not just kind of getting by and treating a particular chronic disease. So
Yeah, thank you. That's great advice. So I will put all of your information in the show notes, your phone number, where they could reach you, your website, email. And I think the work that you're doing is wonderful. I truly believe in it. It certainly I feel like it saved my life, literally, because
yeah.
I thought I was dying. I
Mhm.
I looked I was about 25 to 30 pounds overweight.
Mm.
I had joint pain. I was getting migraine headaches. I'd wake up in the morning with a fairly flat stomach, and by the end of the day, I looked 6 months pregnant. And
Yeah.
I was like, what is going on? And,
Yeah.
so at that time, was looking for functional medicine, and I found a doctor in New York City. And I honestly feel like she saved my life in a way, because I felt like I was about to die at some point. It was really bad.
No, it's really because there's so many things that the changes that your body goes through, and you don't
Yeah.
even know what's related to what. And it could all be like the hormone deficiency. So that is like something that I relate to as well, and many of my patients relate
Yeah.
to. Men and women. So also men get that grumpy old man syndrome when their testosterone is low. And
Yeah.
so people don't always make that association, but it's yeah. So
That's true. I know a couple like that. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. And I'd love to have you come on again.
I would love it. I would love it. It
Thank
was such a
you. Thank
pleasure.
you. Thank you all for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, and you think that this episode would benefit someone who you know and love, please share it out with them and let them know about my podcast. And if you would, it would be great if you could leave me a review. And if you're not already following me here, please be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified when a new episode is released every week. I truly do appreciate that, and I just want to say until the next time, be well, stay happy, and bye for now. Take good care, everyone.